Did the title pull you in? Good, that was the point. The P-51 Mustang, an extremely iconic and revered plane from World War II, has been spotted in the Battlefield 5 files. Now, of course, anything you find in the files these days is subject to the usual pinch of salt, which, for health and safety reasons, I am going to advise you not to consume, because we've consumed quite enough salt here in the last few months. But as of update 6.0, the Mustang has been referenced in the files here and there, which is pretty exciting. If you don't know much about the Mustang, well, I'll give you a brief overview. During World War II, it was mainly used as a long-range fighter that would escort bombers in raids over Germany for the British Royal Air Force. It was designed and built in the United States, and the reason it actually exists is because there was a need from Great Britain for more fighter planes. They didn't really have enough, so they requested this American company, North American Aviation, to make them some more. Initially, the British asked for Curtiss P-40 fighters. They thought those would fit the bill, but when North American Aviation took on the request, they didn't make those P-40s, and instead they designed an entirely new plane, and that turned out to be the Mustang. They were fitted with Rolls-Royce Merlin engines in the Mark III model. That's when the Mustang became a true competitor to the Luftwaffe's fighters, because the engine upgrade came without a degradation in range, and the planes could fly at a higher altitude, so the Mustang became this perfect candidate to accompany British bombers over mainland Europe and into German airspace, where they would be targeted by anti-air cannons and Luftwaffe fighters, but that was exactly what the Mustang was for. It was to counteract those things. With this plane being spotted in the files for Battlefield 5 at this stage, now knowing what its main role was during World War II, I'd say we're quite a ways off from seeing the plane actually enter gameplay in Battlefield 5. If it ever does, this is just a data mine. It's likely that it would come to the game when things shift back to the war in Europe, perhaps when it's depicting the German retreat towards Berlin. Now, another vehicle has also been found in the files, the German Sonderkraft Fahrzeug 234. I know, quite a mouthful, and probably completely mispronounced, so I'm sorry, my German viewers, but I did my best. This was a family of armoured cars that were designed and built in Germany, armed with 20, 50 or 75mm main guns. Now, the point of this vehicle during the war was to provide a fast-moving but hard-hitting unit that could provide reconnaissance to the German troops. The idea was born from the Blitzkrieg in the early stages of World War II. That's when the German army just swept across Europe and toppled towns, cities, and entire countries with extreme speed. It forced the Allies into complete retreat. Now, the 234 was Germany's improvement on the vehicles that were used in the Blitzkrieg, and it was powered by an air-cooled diesel engine. It featured 8-wheel steering, had a second rear-facing driver's seat, and had 6 forward and 6 reverse gears, giving it great maneuverability, which was, of course, the entire point of it. Also being fitted with a powerful main gun, that meant if it had to engage enemy targets, that it could do some considerable damage. Now, if a vehicle like this did become part of Battlefield 5, then I personally think it would really step up the engagement speed of armoured vehicles. There's no hiding from the fact that tank combat or armoured combat in Battlefield 5 is less fun compared to previous franchise entries, and not being a massive vehicle player myself, I don't find them to be anywhere near as fun to engage with as an infantry soldier, so maybe speeding up their movement a little bit, maybe some of that fun could return. Not quite sure, but maybe a boost in speed might be what Battlefield 5 needs. I might have also mentioned the other day in another video that I've made that chapters 7, 8 and 9 were already found in the files for Battlefield 5, but I can't quite remember if I told you why. There was a comment underneath the video that was asking about chapters 7, 8 and 9 and what they were going to be, but I can't remember if I explained it properly. But the reason they've been mentioned is because DICE has already put in different markers for the chapter boost packs that you can buy under the store tab in the armory. These contain those cosmetic items that are themed around the chapter, so it's usually some different outfits for your soldiers. Often they include some extra assignments that reward you with chapter XP, and you get a 20% chapter XP booster applied to your account for the chapter as well, and that accelerates your progress towards those chapter rewards. DICE has already laid down some code that would suggest those booster packs will be returning for chapters 7, 8 and 9, although they don't lead us to any information about what those chapters could actually be, but it does give us some confidence that DICE has plans to properly support this game through 2020 at the very least, and that's always good news. Something else that we can look forward to in a future update, not sure what update that's going to be, it might be 6.2, it might be 6.4 or 7, we don't really know at the moment, but we can look forward to the return of the OG kill sound from the launch of Battlefield 5. You might remember with the Wake Island release that DICE changed the kill sound to bring it closer to what Battlefield 1 offers, and admittedly, Battlefield 1 is still better than the one in Battlefield 5 because it's louder and more elaborate, but the fact remains that DICE changed it to make it sound a little bit more like Battlefield 1. But it does seem that DICE has also heard feedback from some players that preferred the kill sound that Battlefield 5 launched with, because the OG sound will become an option within the menu that you can turn back on if you want to. And there will also be an option to completely disable the kill sound if you don't want to hear one at all. Having the option to turn something on or off as a gamer, that's always a good thing because it gives you more control over your experience. And also here, giving players a choice, that's good as well, because you don't just have to have one sound, you can have a different sound, or you can have nothing at all. If you didn't like the way that DICE changed it with Wake Island, well, now you can change it back if you want to. Moving away from sound options and back to vehicles again, perhaps I should have put this earlier on in the video to sort of group all three vehicles together, but whatever. There might also be some alternate versions of the two Pacific transport cars coming to Battlefield 5. The American GPW and the Japanese Kurogane, they received code updates with the 6.0 patch that would allow for a gunner position to be added to the vehicle, so that would give it some sort of power against infantry other than running infantry over. This would be a nice update for sure, but it would likely remove the two rear seats in each vehicle and then replace it with one gunner seat, and that would of course reduce the number of seats from 4 to 3. Now, I remember lots of players giving feedback before the launch of the Pacific Theatre last year that there weren't enough transport vehicles in the game to allow faster travel between objectives. So coming to this point and potentially reducing the number of seats available, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. It isn't often that I see full transport cars on Pacific maps. Usually it's just one or two people trying to get from one conquest flag to the other, but I'm not going to deny that it would be fun to start hammering off a machine gun as you barrel across the Iwo Jima grasslands, or if you're going across the Pacific Storm beaches. That would be pretty cool. Perhaps a solution here would be to have two different types of transport, one completely reserved for infantry movement, and then the other having the gunner position on it that could be used to maybe protect an objective or something, or just provide more firepower against enemy infantry. Once again, giving players the option here to take one or the other, depending on the situation they prefer, that might be a good solution. And then something a little bit smaller, but still quite interesting if you like the cosmetics in Battlefield 5. We've got some details from the files on the upcoming Japanese elite soldier, Akira Sakamoto. Now, the assignments placed with him to unlock the unique melee weapon that you get with each elite soldier, which, by the way, is a control stick that's been ripped from the cockpit of a crashed plane. Those assignments are going to ask players to complete aircraft-related tasks, stationary weapon usage, MMGs, and using spotting flares, so quite a mix of things, really. This sounds like it's going to be one of those paid elite offerings rather than another free one, as DICE has done with rank 40 in their chapter rewards, so it's going to be up to you if you want to spend money on something like this or not, and that's really going to depend on whether you've got the money or whether you want to put any more money into Battlefield 5. And there we go, bang up to date with all of the data mined info that we have so far about the game. Make sure you do remember that this isn't official information until you hear it from EA and DICE, and if you never hear it again, then you'll know that it never made it into the game. Thanks very much for watching. Leave me a rating and a comment. It is much appreciated. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.